doing, everyone? Thanks for pressing that button. It's Joe here from Living to Learn. I just thought I'd jump in and make another quick video on a question that was asked of me. It gets asked of me a bit on how I sharpen my knives or how I maintain my knives. For a knife reseller, I actually use very little maintenance gear. I've become very adept at just using the two pieces that I have. So at the last camp, at the last Living to Learn camp, I brought along some of my stuff, but I became so busy that I wasn't able to kind of sit down. I would have loved to sit down and just give some pointers, but I definitely will at the next camp. But moving swiftly into it, all I use to maintain my edges is this is an Arkansas stone that's just simply glued to a piece of timber. I was lucky enough to visit the Moore Knife Factory in Dalarna, and there was a guy there who just sat in the corner, lovely gentleman. I'm raging I can't remember his name, but he was a master of slide. And if you don't know what slide is, yes, it's a particular type of carving knife, but slide itself, the knife is used in an art form known as slide, and it's basically like martial arts for wood carvers. And he was a master at it, and so he just sat there all day teaching people how to carve little Dalarna horses, which is a big thing in Sweden. But beside him, he had a bucket with water in it and just one of these, and I asked him what it was for, and he took time out of his day and he sat down and he showed me how he used this all day to keep his knife razor sharp. So I use one of these, and I'll show you how I use it now in a minute. I use a field strap made by Gallagher Leatherworks. He was kind enough to make this one for me, and I use black compound and green compound. And this is where Living to Learn is going now. It's not about what compounds you use or what methods you use. If your knife is sharp and you can sharpen it, that's cool. But I happen to use Black River compound, Black River Black, and green compound on the back. But most compounds are the same. You can argue left and right, but it comes down to technique. If you use a cheap compound you got off eBay, that's completely fine. And I use a LT Wright field strap that's impregnated with his black compound. This is just kind of what I would use in the field, but I've become quite adept using it for convex edges and stuff. The knife that I'll be sharpening is my son's BHK North Camp. My son is 6 years old and he's become quite proficient at knives. He's been using them since he was about 4. He started off with a Moore 511, and this is what he's kind of up to now. He really enjoys being out in the forest with his tools. But I got this one because it's a Kydex sheath and he tends to run in puddles and we go to beaches and stuff. It's got a lock on it, a really strong lock that he can't get open at the moment, so he can't actually take this knife out without asking me before he can, even if it is on his hip. And then when it pops out, it's got kind of similar features that he's used to. It's got a really kind of skinny blade, it's well balanced, it's got a really big finger choil and the handles are very slim. I've got size 9 hands, so you can kind of see there, it almost wraps around itself. But he loves it so much that this thing gets destroyed. It's got marks from being stabbed into sand and being chipped out on rocks. He likes to prepare kindling and stuff like that, so I'm just going to give it a quick touch up here. It's dull in bits and chipped in bits, but an easy fix once you know how. So I'll get you down into the lap and we can have a look, and I'll show you how I do this. So I'll be back in a second. Right, so this is the shot we'll work with. I'm just going to wet my whetstone. Apologies for that unprofessionalism. So what the guy in the Moore Knife Factory showed me was the way he sharpened his slide knife using this was to hold it on your knee, and you just literally find the angle. This is predominantly a Scandi sharpening technique. Find your angle and just nice and easy back and forth. So I do this kind of by sight. You can see the shavings on the edge starting to change. Just turn it over, find your angle. Now what most people tend not to do is follow the geometry. Don't keep it straight. When you get up to the tip, work around. It's a nice way to keep it safe. Already that's starting to become extremely sharp. Now what I do to kind of tackle that bit of up near the tip is I hold my whetstone like so. Now you can get nice and safe with this one. You can get really underneath it. You're not going to be coming in contact with any of it. And I place my finger in front of the edge, so I find my angle. So you can work it like this, and I just work that tip in nice. Changing my roll. You always want to be pitching your edge, your top edge. So I'm just taking those awful chips out that my son put in. Change it over here. You can see how I work it there. Find my angle. Just nice safe rolls. Always watching where your hands are going to be. I just work it like that. Up and down the length of the blade. Always keeping my finger in front of the edge. So that way my pitch ain't changing. My edge angle isn't changing. So you can see if I'm kicking my elbow up, I'm chasing that tip. Now, don't expect to move at this kind of speed, because when I first started now, I took it nice and slow, making sure my blade was always flat, kicking up my tip, rolling it back in, and eventually you build up this speed. So already she's back to where I need her to be. She is very good, very sharp. The chips have been completely removed from up the top. Easy fix. Now, I keep my knives, or all my knives that I tend to buy are usually a 58 on the Rockwell scale. 58 is a nice soft, but also hard enough to do wood processing. And also for sharpening, you start heading into the 60 range, and this kind of really quick honing techniques, it can be a lot more difficult. So I keep mine at 58, and that allows me to do that. Plus, like with kitchen knives are very hard Rockwell because they're designed to be tough and retain edge retention. But they're only good for vertical pressure. A wood's knife is going to be twisted left and right and contorted, so you need that blade to flex. And that's why the 58 Rockwell I find works good for me. So next on to the strop. I start with my black side first, my black compound first, and I kind of nestle it into my chest. I've just learned to work with my strop. Usually I'll work it where I need it to be. Now, really, really lightly, you can always tell when you're watching a stropping video if they're kind of stropping too hard, because you'll see when you press, the palms of their nail, or the nail bed will change colour. So when I strop, I usually start from the tip. You can see I'm going to kick my elbow here to emphasize the point, and I roll into it. Nice and easy, zero pressure. I'm just using the bare weight of the knife and letting it rock along. Rolling into it every time. So you're starting high with your tip where you need it to be, and you're rolling that belly. You're rolling that belly nice and smooth. And then the same coming back. I start nice and high and roll in this way. Now the reason I do that, I do a tip first, is just so I constantly am getting the belly of the knife. I found that when I started like this, then when I came back, I tended to put just a bit too much pressure on the knife to kick it off, and I was damaging my tip. So I start from tip first and I roll in. Now normally when I get back from the forest, on most trips, I would just give it a few licks. Like, I'm not going to be doing anything that I wouldn't be doing. I'm not going. This is real time. This is exactly what I would do. Normally I wouldn't even bother with the Arkansas stone. I wouldn't be damaging tips like the way my son would, but I do it this way. And if you want to be a bit more precise, when I started, I used to count 20 in one direction, 20 in the other direction, 19 in one direction, 19 in the other direction, and I'd work my way down to where I wanted it to be. But now I can kind of keep my knives nice and sharp. It's always nice when your knife has a kind of a guard or ricosso like this, because it's very easy to pitch and pivot when you got a bit of a bolster here. Again, why I kind of do always vary towards the French trades. It makes it very easy for sharpening. So you can see nice and light, nice quick strokes. Zero to no pressure, just the weight of the blade. Already we're up to the hair popping sharpness. I tend not to go too heavy on the green side. It's literally just kind of to align the carbides. If you ever look at a blade under a microscope, you can see that it's kind of like the Alps. When you're stropping a knife, all you're doing is bringing the carbides back in line again where you don't need much pressure. You're just kind of combing its hair, if you want a better definition of it, like that a guy told me one time. So there we go. I mean, that is what we at, 10 minutes bar my talking, and already she's back to hair popping sharp. How I work my belt strap, I normally just stick it over my toe. Apologies for the dirty socks. And I use the same procedure. Now you have to be careful to keep this tense enough, but again really light, starting with the tip and rolling in. Just a few quick passes. Now, this is great for convex edges, but it takes a bit of practice, but you can get a really lovely sharp edge off a belt. Same again, working the tip. Nice, light, quick passes. Well, take them slow, but just nice and light. Rolling in with the tip every time. There you go. You can see that that's chips are moved. Edge is back to sharp. Do I have a piece of paper? Yes, I do. You can see now there are 0 chips. She's cutting lovely and clean. All of 15 minutes. So we just tip you back up here. So there you go. Lovely done. Sorted out. Lickety split. I have no secrets. There's no master technique. It's just practice. And with a couple of things like a really good strop, an Arkansas stone for when things get bad, there should be no knife that you can't repair. I'm not saying that you're going to get mirror polishes. I'm not saying you're going to get those razor smooth, pressure free cuts. But for a woods knife, that's sharp. That's as sharp as you need to get a woods knife. You don't need to be working on your edge so much that you take it out to the forest and it dulls. Get home from the forest, 15 minutes down in front of the TV or reading a book or listening to the radio, you can get your edge back to where you need it to be. So I hope this helps some people, and at the next camp, if anybody wants to come over, I'll gladly give some pointers and we can have a bit of fun. So see you all in the Live and Learn community, and it's Joe from Live and Learn.